Given the last few years, you've probably heard of this stuff before. It's elderberry cough syrup. If you were to go online or go to your local pharmacy, you'd probably find that this stuff costs about $20 to $25 a bottle for about 250 ml. This is a 1.5 litre bottle and it's full of elderberry syrup that I made myself. So in this video, I'm going to show you how you can make your own elderberry cough syrup. And I've got 3 reference books that I've used to make this recipe, because this recipe that I used is about, I don't know, 150 years old, maybe even longer. I've got A Modern Herbal by Mrs. M. Grieve, Nicolas Culpeper's Complete Herbal, an English Physician, and the Herbal Medicine Maker's Handbook by James Green. And so the first 2 books gave me the recipe, and this book gave me the method for decoction, which I'll show you in this video. Elderberries have been used for centuries as a medicine, going way back to about 100 AD when the Romans used to use it, and Pliny the Elder made a huge reference in his war chronicles or his diaries. He was a naval commander and he made lots of entries in his diaries about the power of the elder tree and the elderberries and all of the things that it was good for. Nicolas Culpeper, in his English Physician and Herbal, talks about how it was used to dye the hair black, how it was used as a decongestant, a general cold flu remedy. But anyway, that's by the by, that the history is very long. So how do you make elderberry cough syrup? Well, the recipe is really simple. All you need is 50 grams of fresh elderberry, 500 ml of spring water, 200 grams of white sugar, about a teaspoonful of ground cloves, and about a teaspoon and a half to 2 teaspoonfuls of ginger. And remember, you can only pick the elderberries in a small window at the end of summer, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere, in the north of England where I am. You will get about a 4-week harvest window, and that usually runs between the middle of August to the middle of September. So that is the only time you'll be able to harvest elderberries. The method to make elderberry cough syrup is really simple. All you need to do is get your 50 grams of elderberries, use a fork to agitate the berries into your pan, cover that with your 500 ml of water and leave that to soak for about 4 or 5 hours. I left mine to soak overnight, which was about 6 or 7 hours. If you leave it longer than that, your berries might start to ferment, so be careful that doesn't happen. Once you are ready the following day to actually start the preparation, give it a good mix. Mix in your cloves, your ground cloves and your ground cinnamon, give it a stir, then bring the whole thing to a boil. Once you hit a boil, make sure it's covered and then turn it down to a simmer for about 20-25 minutes. That time frame is kind of standard for any herbal decoction, and you'll see in James Green's book he mentions that and gives full instructions as to how to actually make a herbal decoction in his book. After about 20-25 minutes, you want to uncover, check it's all okay, and then what you want to do is filter it straight away into another pan. So to filter it, you should use some muslin cloth to basically squeeze out all of the juice so that you're only left with the pulp. Or you could use, if you don't have a muslin cloth, you could just use, like I did, just use some 2-ply kitchen roll, put that over a sieve and then pour your berry decoction into the sieve and then into the pan. Once you've done that for the full recipe and the whole thing's filtered through, you then want to filter it a second time, and that really purifies and really makes it kind of a clean juice. Once you've filtered it for the second time, you can then put it back on the cooker. You want to reduce that by 4, so from 500 down to 125 ml, basically reduce it down to 1/5 of its original size, and that concentrates the herbal decoction and obviously makes it more potent. Once you've reduced it down to 125 ml or 1/5 of the original size, that's when you need to add in your sugar. And on a gentle heat, just stir the sugar in until it dissolves, and you will find that you'll then get a nice syrupy consistency. that's when you're ready to pour and store. Let it cool first though, cover it. Once it's finished and all your sugar's dissolved, leave it to cool, and once it's cooled down, just pour that into your container, which would be an airtight container. A couple of little bottles. I used a 1.5 litre glass bottle because I made a higher volume recipe. I made more. I'd rather just do one batch of lots of stuff, then that covers the whole family for the winter. So once you've done that, just pour it and store it. And this stuff, because of the volume of syrup and sugar that's inside it, will store in your pantry for over a year. Some people say between 1 and 2 years, because the syrupy consistency and the volume of sugar prevents the growth of any bacteria. As for dosage, at the onset of symptoms, take 1 to 2 teaspoonfuls if you're an adult, and if you're a child, maybe half a teaspoon to a teaspoonful at the onset of symptoms, and keep doing that until the symptoms go away. And it is well known and well used and anecdotally used for hundreds and hundreds of years to prevent and increase immunity against cold, flus, influenzas, and all of those kinds of seasonal illnesses we seem to suffer.
Bottoms up.
And that's it. I hope that's been useful. Again, the books, that if you want to learn more details about this recipe or the actual ins and outs, then visit the website bornbright.com, and you will check the health section and you will see a whole guide written about elderberry cough syrup. If you want to check the books, that's the Herbal Medicine Maker's Handbook by James Green, Nicolas Culpeper's Complete Herbal, and a Modern Herbal by Mrs. M. Grieve, and I'll leave links to those books below if you want to have your own herbal library for such things in the future. As always, if you're interested in this particular video or any others like this, then get yourself over to bornbright.com, where I talk all about self-sufficiency and things you can do in your life to take ownership back, away from the state, away from these huge monstrous institutions that seem only to exist to siphon your life energy. Hope that's been useful, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers, bye.